Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is July 26, 2023, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is your co-host, Ben Dickerson. Training camp has begun for just about everybody. I believe all teams have finally reported, except possibly one. Somebody had a training camp date that was one day later than everybody else's. I can't remember who the heck it was. But anyway, pretty much everybody's in the training camp. Some teams have all their rookies signed. That's an interesting thing. There's still some free agents out there in the wind that haven't been signed by anybody yet. But now that training camp has started, I believe that that's going to start to happen. So we'll see what's going
Yeah,
on with
it
that.
really has started to happen. Even your team, you just signed your left tackle or something like that? Gave him a nice
Yeah.
big contract.
Well,
Let
that was actually a renegotiation. He still had a year left.
Okay, okay. Let me mention last week when we were talking about the running back situation, and I mentioned Josh Jacobs and the 3,000 yard stat. And I wasn't quite sure what that stat was, whether it was over time or whatever. I'm looking at a report on it now, and he had 3,000 combined yards.
Yes.
And so apparently the statistical analysis says the season after a player, running back has had 3,000 combined yards, their production falls off the cliff. So whatever
Yeah.
study they did that had that's the actual stat. But, for any running back, that's a stat to be proud of. 3,000 combined yards, man,
That's basically just led the entire league in total yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Josh Jacobs and still one of those free agents without a contract. So, Benny, what we're going to do today is we're going to take a quick look back at the brain trust for the NFL. Just a quick review of who they are. And then we're going to talk about the top three AFC brain trusts and the top three NFC brain trusts. So, what you drinking today?
Crown Royal Black.
Crown Royal Black. All right.
Right.
Well, I got 8 o'clock coffee right here. So that's what I'm going to be drinking for right now. Okay, let's get ready to kick this thing off, Benny. All right. Ben and Barry on football, the NFL Brain Trust. We are going to start out with the AFC East for 2023. Let's take a quick look at who that group is. Starting out with the Buffalo Bills, we have GM Brandon Beane, head coach Sean McDermott, offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, defensive coordinator Sean McDermott. Again, head coach handling his own defense, special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley, and quarterback Josh Allen. So that's your brain trust for the Buffalo Bills. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins, general manager Chris Greer, head coach Mike McDaniel, offensive coordinator Frank Smith, defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, special teams coordinator Danny Crossman, and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. How's that?
Not bad. Not bad.
Tagovailoa. Next up in that division, we have the New England Patriots, GM Matt Groh, head coach Bill Belichick, offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, defensive coordinator Steve Belichick, special teams coordinator Karen Accord, and quarterback Mac Jones. And then finally in that division, the AFC East, we have the New York Jets, the only team I had any family that played for. And GM Joe Douglas, head coach Robert Saleh, offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, special teams coordinator Brant Boyer, and quarterback Aaron Rodgers. we're going to talk about Aaron. He did a little something today, Benny, that showed up in the news. Aaron Rodgers did. AFC North. We have the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, we're going by record here. Who had the best record in 2022 in that division? GM, Duke Tobin. Head coach, Zach Taylor. Offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan. Defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. Special teams coordinator, Darren Simmons. And quarterback, Joe Burrow. All right, there you go. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens. GM Eric DeCosta, head coach John Harbaugh, offensive coordinator Todd Monken, defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, special teams coordinator Chris Horton, and quarterback Lamar Jackson. We next have the Pittsburgh Steelers, GM Omar Khan. I don't know if I did that on capital or not. Head coach, Mike Tomlin. Offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. Defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin. Special teams coordinator, Danny Smith. And quarterback, Kenny Pickett. So that takes care. Oh, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry. We have the Browns. How did I forget the Browns with GM Andrew Berry. Head coach, Kevin Stefanski. Offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt. Defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. Special teams coordinator, Bubba Ventrone. And quarterback, Deshaun Watson. So that takes care of that group. We're going to move on to the AFC South. Starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars with GM Trent Baalke. Head coach, Doug Peterson. Offensive coordinator, Press Taylor. Defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell. Special teams coordinator, Heath Carwell, and quarterback Trevor Lawrence. There's your Jaguar Brain Trust. Tennessee Titans Brain Trust starts out with GM Rand Carthen, head coach Mike Vrabel, offensive coordinator Tim Kelly, defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman, and quarterback Ryan Tannehill, we think. NFL Brain Trust for the Indianapolis Colts, GM Chris Ballard, head coach Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter, defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, special teams coordinator Brian Mason, and we have 3 quarterbacks in the camp here, and I listed all 3 since one is a rookie who has a good chance of starting, but Gardner Minshew is in that crew. Anthony Richardson is that rookie, and Sam Ehlinger is standing by trying to see what he can get done there. So Sam Ehlinger is the 3rd quarterback in that crew. The Houston Texans are coming in with GM Nick Caserio, head coach D'Amico Ryan, offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, defensive coordinator Matt Burke, special teams coordinator Frank Ross, and quarterbacks are both C.J. Stroud and Davis Mills. That takes care of that group. Next up, the AFC West. We start out with the Chiefs. GM Brett Veach, head coach Andy Reid, offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, special teams coordinator Dave Taub, and quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Next up, we have the Chargers with GM Tom Telesco, head coach Brandon Staley, offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, defensive coordinator Derek Ansley, special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken, and quarterback Justin Herbert. That's a group right there. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, GM Dave Ziegler, head coach Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi, defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, special teams coordinator Tom McMahon, and quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. And finally, for this group, we have for the Denver Broncos, we have GM George Patton, head coach Sean Payton, offensive coordinator Joe Lombard, I believe that's Lombardi, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, special teams coordinator Ben Kotwicka, and one quarterback, Russell Wilson. So that takes care of your AFC conference, Benny, with NFL Brain Trust for the Philadelphia Eagles. GM Howie Roseman, head coach Nick Sirianni, offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, defensive coordinator Sean Desai, special teams coordinator Michael Clay, and quarterback Jalen Hurts. NFL Brain Trust next up for the Dallas Cowboys, GM Jerry Jones, owner, president, GM, all of that stuff. Head coach Mike McCarthy, offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheim, defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, special teams coordinator John Fassel, and quarterback Dak Prescott. Next up, Benny, your New York Football Giants with GM Joe Schoen, right?
Shane.
Joe Schoen, GM. Head coach Brian Daboll. Offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. Defense coordinator Don Martindale. Special teams coordinator Thomas McGahee and Daniel Jones at quarterback. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders. GM Martin Mayhew. Head coach Ron Rivera. Offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. Defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio, special teams coordinator Nate Kaczor, and quarterback Sam Howell is listed as the starter at this point. All right, next up, the NFC North. We're starting out with the Minnesota Vikings. GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Head coach Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator Wes Phillips, defensive coordinator Brian Flores, special teams coordinator Matt Daniels, and quarterback Kirk Cousins. The Detroit Lions are next up with GM Brad Holmes, head coach Dan Campbell, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, special teams coordinator Dave Phipp, quarterback Jared Goff. For the Green Bay Packers Brain Trust, we start out with GM Brian Gutekunst, head coach Matt LaFleur, offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich, defensive coordinator Joe Barry, special teams coordinator Rick Bisaccia, and quarterback Jordan Love. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears. GM Ryan Poles, head coach Matt Eberflus, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, defensive coordinator Alan Williams, special teams coordinator Richard Hightower, quarterback Justin Fields. We move on to the NFC South, starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with GM Jason Light, head coach Todd Bowles, offensive coordinator Dave Canales. The defensive coordinator is also Todd Bowles, special teams coordinator Keith Armstrong, and you have a quarterback competition potentially between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. We shall see. The Carolina Panthers are up next. Their brain trust starts with GM Scott Fitterer, head coach Frank Reich, offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, defensive coordinator Hiro Evero, special teams coordinator Chris Tabor, and quarterback rookie Bryce Young. The New Orleans Saints are up next. Their brain trust starts with GM Mickey Loomis. They move on to head coach Dennis Allen, the offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, defensive coordinator Joe Woods, special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi, and quarterback Derek Carr. And finally, for this division, we have the Atlanta Falcons, GM Terry Fontenot, head coach Arthur Smith, offensive coordinator Dave Rangone, defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen, special teams coordinator Marquise Williams. Quarterbacks listed are Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke. Very interesting combination of quarterbacks right there. All right. And I think we'll be wrapping it up with the NFC West. Starting out with my beloved San Francisco 49ers. GM John Lynch, head coach Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator Chris Foster, defensive coordinator Steve Wilks, special teams coordinator Brian Schneider. We have 3 quarterbacks listed. It looks like the number 1 is going to be Brock Purdy. We have Trey Lance, and we have brought on one Sam Darnold to the crew. So that makes up the San Francisco 49ers. Next up, the NFL Brain Trust for the Seattle Seahawks, GM John Snyder, head coach Pete Carroll, offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, defensive coordinator Clint Hurts, special teams coordinator Larry Izzo, and quarterback Geno Smith. And we have the Los Angeles Rams. Brain Trust starts with GM Les Snead, head coach Sean McVay, offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, special teams coordinator Chase Blackburn, and quarterback Matthew Stafford. And bringing up the rear for the NFC West, the Brain Trust for the Arizona Cardinals with GM Monty Ossenford, head coach Jonathan Gannon, offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, defensive coordinator Nick Rallis, special teams coordinator Jeff Rogers, and quarterback Kyler Murray. So that wraps up the Brain Trust for the NFL, AFC, NFC. I did it kind of fast, but that's, this is following up on, what was that, 8 weeks that we did this? When we went in depth on every division, on every team. So I just remind people to make sure that they get a chance to go back and find out, and you can see how deep this goes. But in the meantime, we're gonna just muse, and Ben's gonna kind of give his top 3 for each conference, and then I'm gonna cheat off of his paper and see what I can come up with. So Benny,
I'm sure a couple of my picks may be, well, I don't know about that, but I was getting ready to say I'm pretty sure a couple of my picks may be a little controversial for you when you first hear them. So you might want to do a little riff on that. But basically what I did was, as we did this over the last few weeks, I actually tried to pay attention to each of these guys' resumes. And even though there was a lot of information given, when I looked at each person's resume, including the special teams coaches, but especially the OCs, the DCs, and the GMs, I tried to see if they followed, like, for instance, the GMs, I tried to see if they followed basically the normal career path, scouting, handling film,
quality control.
Quality control. I'm sorry, that escaped me, and I just checked that out too. Right,
you did a great
quality
piece
control and scouting were the 2 main things. Because and I also tried to think about if they had a track record, if it was a long track record, if it was a short track record, if in fact I could remember some of their last few drafts and how well I thought they did. That's what I looked at for GMs. Offensive coordinators, obviously, I looked at their offense. Do they call plays? Do they not? How successful has their offense been? I have a little insight on that because I play a lot of fantasy football. So over the last few years, I have tracked stuff like that. Same thing with the DCs. How well does the defense look? How are they ranked by the NFL and also by our rating system? Took all that stuff into consideration. And of course, the quarterbacks is pretty much, I know the players. So I know if they're good, if they're not. I know what I expect from them, and I know what they've done recently, except for the teams that look like they may be starting rookies. And at that point, I can only speculate. But, I've looked at everybody's college careers, and I'm looking at the teams that these guys are on. And then I have to kind of decide, do I think they're going to make an impact or not? So I look at it as an overall unit, each brain trust. Some teams may be a little weak at a certain position or job, but the strength of someone else kind of lifts them up. In other words, some people may poo-poo the Steelers' brain trust as a whole, but Mike Tomlin, to me, props them up. That's just an example, okay? So anyway, without further ado, let me get on with this. In the AFC, I believe that the strongest and best put together, most complete brain trust is the Kansas City Chiefs. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, okay? From quarterback on up, very accomplished GM, extremely accomplished head coach, one of the great offensive minds in the game right now, a very accomplished offensive coordinator, even though he probably won't be calling plays on the sideline because I think Andy Reid's pretty much got that locked down. He's been doing it. Unless he starts to have problems, I don't see him handing that off to anybody. But Matt Nagy's been doing pretty well at all his stops in the league, except for when he had stops as a head coach. He didn't do well as a head coach, but he's admired for his offensive knowledge. The defensive coach I love very much. Defensive coordinator I love very much, Steve Spagnuolo, because coached the Giants. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the Giants. He was also very successful in improving the New Orleans Saints defense when he was there. Special teams coach, I don't know a heck of a lot about, but I do remember while you were doing the information on that brain trust, you mentioned that this guy's units have finished in top 10 in a lot of categories. And if I'm not mistaken, their special teams coach, whose name escapes me right now, was the special teams coach. Okay, he was the special teams coach for the Chicago Bears back when they were playing really well, and they had Devin Hester. So I can't forget about that guy. So I like the Chiefs number one. The number two brain trust in the AFC to me is the Cincinnati Bengals, my new AFC favorite. I really admire Zach Taylor. I think their GM's been around for a while and has shown that he knows what he's doing. He knows the league. Zach Taylor knows offense. Their defense is improving constantly. They've already made a trip to the Super Bowl recently and are looking real strong to be able to do it again. And Joe Burrow is sitting pretty right now, especially with Justin Herbert getting that contract today or yesterday, whenever he got it. Every quarterback contract that gets done has blown away the one previous to it. And Joe Burrow is still waiting. So if you like Herbert's contract, you're going to love Joe Burrow's contract when he finally gets it. But we'll talk about money later. Anyway, I love the Cincinnati Bengals brain trust. And the third best brain trust in the AFC, I do believe, is the Buffalo Bills. Well respected across the board. Sean McDermott, strong head coach, strong defensive coordinator. No shame in his game. He didn't even hire a defensive coordinator. That's his job. He's embraced it. He's going to handle that. Josh Allen, everybody knows about Josh Allen. So that's the way I see it in the AFC. And just real quick, I think probably the weakest brain trust in the AFC would have to be the Houston Texans. And it's a shame, but you got a first-year head coach, DeMeco Ryans, who we all respect a whole lot as a defensive coordinator, but how he does as a head coach remains to be seen. He doesn't have a lot of well, he can't have any success because it's his first time doing it. I believe he's got a first-time OC and a first-time DC also, who haven't done anything really except be position coaches. So he's got his work cut out for him. They all do. They're all handling a new job for the first time with a franchise that hasn't done very well. So it's going to be tough going for them. NFC.
All right.
Number one brain trust.
I said, all right.
Yeah. Number one brain trust in the NFC is the San Francisco 49ers. No doubt in my mind. I really admire your team. I really do. You know, I talk about the Niners all the time. I admire their team. I admire the way they do things. I think that John Lynch, who didn't take the normal career path like most GMs did because he was a former NFL player, has really done well at his job. This guy knows how to assess talent. He knows how to keep his team strong. If he loses players by injury, free agency, or they have to let people go, somehow he's always able to plug somebody in. They're very strong at a position that a lot of teams in the NFL, I don't want to say ignore, but kind of don't really put a lot of emphasis on, which is linebacker. The Niners keep them some strong linebackers. And I believe that's what helps them keep a very strong defense. A lot of experience in their coaching staff. The only thing that you could say could possibly be a weakness on this brain trust is their quarterback situation, which seems to be up in the air a little bit right now. I, for one, believe in Brock Purdy as much as anybody can believe in a guy who hasn't even played a full season yet. But hey, what the heck? He looked pretty good when he played. So I think that if he comes back from this injury the way that he should, everything will be fine. Other than that, this coaching staff is really strong, and Purdy will have a lot of good brain power to lean on. Second strongest in the NFC, I believe this is where you're going to probably disagree with me, or maybe not. Second best, I believe, is the Los Angeles Rams. I look at that brain trust, and I really, really like it. I really like Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay is a great coach. He's really young. And if I'm not mistaken, his offensive and defensive coordinators are also pretty young. And they're already very accomplished. So I think the Rams brain trust is great. Quarterback-wise, Matt Stafford's coming off of an elbow injury, which isn't ideal. I think he had an elbow. I know Purdy had an elbow. I think Stafford had an elbow too. He's a lot older than Purdy, so how he comes back off his injury, we'll have to wait and see. But I have a lot of faith in their coaching staff and their organization, so I really like the Rams. And number 3 in the NFC is the New York Football Giants. I love my coaching staff. I love my new GM pretty much because if I took over for the guy that was there before, they'd be better. He was so bad. No, but Joe Shane, really, he comes from the Buffalo Bills organization. He did well there. He's starting off doing well for us. I really like him. Love the head coach, Brian Daboll. Done a masterful job helping our quarterback improve. I'm not happy how the organization handled the Saquon Barkley deal, but as a coaching staff and a brain trust, I have to give them respect because I see there's nowhere to go but up for these guys, and they've already shown improvement on the team. Daniel Jones, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to pretend that I love Daniel Jones. He's my quarterback. I believe in him. I believe he will continue to get better. I really don't have anything bad to say about him because I thought he played really well last year, considering the years before that, they didn't do anything to help this guy, like nothing. They didn't get him weapons. They didn't make any great effort to get him any weapons. Different head coaches, different offensive coordinators, different systems. That's going to hurt any young player, especially at the quarterback position. So, again, we're just this past season, we've seen the tip of the iceberg, I think, for Daniel Jones. And I believe if he continues to grow, the Giants will be where I'd love them to be. And I believe Daboll's the head coach to do it. Steve Spagnuolo. Oh, I had a flashback. Steve Spagnuolo's with the Chiefs now. Right. I wish he was still the defensive coordinator for the Giants, but we do, in fact, have Wink Martindale, who proved over years and years of being in the NFL that he is a really good defensive coordinator. He's handled every job you can have on defense, and did really well with the Baltimore Ravens, which was his last stop before coming over to the Giants. I think he's going to make the Giants defense much, much improved, especially since he's got some pretty good talent to work with right now. And the worst brain trust in the NFC, I believe, is the Arizona Cardinals. Everybody there is a first time except for the quarterback, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. Nothing but trouble in Arizona. It's going to be a rough season for them. GM on down. They're all first timers.
So let's do a quick review here of your top three for each conference. First off, you have your Kansas City Chiefs. So you feel real good about them. You wish Steve Spagnuolo was still with you. The one thing I will have to say that when I was looking at this is I didn't know if I wanted to just go top to bottom or bottom to top. In other words, start with the smartest quarterback and then see. And naturally, you know, you kind of eliminating the first year coordinators, head coaches, that type of stuff, because they really haven't had a chance to show what they can do at that level. So that makes sense. Like when you were talking about, you know, the Texans. I mean, I can't get mad at you.
Right.
That's my former DC, but you know, he's now a head coach and he has to prove it. Saleh was a former Niner. You know, there's still questions about him as a coach. You know, now he has Aaron Rodgers, and they're like, okay, but you know, that made me think about the Jets even because they have Aaron Rodgers. So you know, if you were talking about like in my world, the Madden world, awareness levels, you know, he's one of the highest. So the other, and even with the Eagles, as much as, you know, I know, you know, everyone has credited Howie Roseman with, you know, all the work that he's done. They now have two new coordinators because their coordinators all left. So, yeah, here's just Kansas City Chiefs in the top spot there.
All veterans.
Yeah, very veteran. And I remember when I was doing the research and doing the report, it seemed long, but they all had such long careers that, you know, and then your new favorite AFC team, the Cincinnati Bengals. What just happened? Something else happened with the Bills, and I thought about you. I was like, oh, something else going on with the Bills. But GM Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor at head coach, Brian Callahan, Lou Anarumo, Darren Simmons, and Joe Burrow, another very smart quarterback. So if I was looking at quarterback awareness, he'd be right there at the top, you know. So
right.
I have to agree
Another
with
veteran crew.
Yeah, with a veteran crew. And you know, and they've beaten, of all people, the Chiefs.
Few times.
A few times, yes. We'll talk a little bit about the series quarterback when we had a chance to look at how Patrick Mahomes was getting handled by one Joe Burrow there. So we'll take a look at that a little later. And then you do have your old favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott's taking two spots there. So your head coach, DC, if you like him, then you really like him in both places. And again, Josh Allen now is I don't know if Josh Allen is considered cerebral per se, but he's grown in the quarterback role. You know, he's a lot better than he was. He's not throwing all of the interceptions and things of that nature. You know, he still has some things to improve on. But that's a heck of a group right there, you know, your Buffalo Bills. So now on the NFC side, and I kind of skipped who was your AFC worst again?
Texans.
The Texans. Yeah, D'Amico and the boys. Okay. All right. But coming from the 49ers, you recognize the 49ers as having a top brain trust in the NFC. GM John Lynch, head coach Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator Chris Foster, but Kyle Shanahan calls the plays. Defensive coordinator Steve Wilkes. That I don't know if that's an upgrade, but it's not much of a fall off on the DC side, I would say.
Well, he's been a former DC, he's been an assistant coach, but he's been a former DC, and he's been a former head coach.
Yes. So, I mean, that's a heck of a plug-in right there, you know?
Right.
And Brian Snyder at special teams coordinator. So when you're looking at awareness, I don't think any of these guys have a super awareness, but I believe Brock Purdy has the highest of the three, actually, even including Sam Darnold, if we were just looking at a Madden awareness rating. But that's an interesting group right there. And I don't expect that it's like the quarterbacks are going to pull the brain trust rating of this group up as much as this group is already up there, and they'll be pulling the quarterbacks up, you know, and putting them
Right.
in the correct position. So, long story short, I can't argue with you on that one either. It's my Niners. And then you got the Rams. Now, you know, the Rams, I guess, they're one of the teams that sort of sold the farm to get the Super Bowl. I mean, they put it all out there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and then usually when that happens, the next year you struggle, you know,
Right.
and that's what they did. So I think this year will be interesting to see how how you fare relative to the brain trust, because if they come right back, that would be amazing. I mean, you'd have to be like, holy mackerel. I mean, Les Snead, head coach Sean McVay, offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, another guy with plenty of experience at all levels. Chase Blackburn, special team coordinator, and quarterback Matthew Stafford, who he got like 14 years in the league or something like that now.
Yeah. One day we're gonna have to do a segment on, does this guy belong in the Hall of Fame or not? And when we do, Matt Stafford's name is gonna come.
You don't want to do that with me.
Sure, I do.
You hate my decision making on the Hall of Fame.
No, well, that's okay.
Okay. All right. But there you go with the Rams, and they're 3 of 3, your top 3 for the NFC. Well, wait a minute. I forgot about the Giants. How could I forget about the Giants?
Look at that staff.
Look at
nothing
that
but
staff.
vets.
Joe Shane, Brian Dable. Now, Brian Dable definitely brought something to this team. And if he brought nothing else, he brought an option game that seemed to help Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones has shown, the ability to run and be somewhat mobile and almost a dual threat quarterback, which, I mean, it was kind of hit and miss in the past. We didn't really talk about him like that. But after the 2022 season, you kind of have to think about him on that level. Mike Kafka at OC. Who's calling the plays for your Giants?
I believe Dayball calls the plays.
Okay. Now, Don Wink.
But Kafka's been around, and Kafka has had a lot of success where he's been. As a quarterback coach, an offensive assistant, I'm pretty sure he's been an offensive coordinator before, but I can't remember where. I know he came up through the Packers, and I think he had some time with Andy Reid.
Okay. Well,
so he's got a nice little resume.
If you're part of that Andy Reid tree, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Don Wink Martindale, how many years he got in the league?
Plenty.
That's a 30-plus year guy right there. Special teams coordinator Thomas McGahee and Daniel Jones. Again, not considered. I don't think anyone considers Daniel Jones a cerebral quarterback. At this particular point, there's a question. Apparently, Tiki Barber went on to some show and said he thought he was a top 5 quarterback, and so they were having a field day with that conversation.
Got to be careful listening to Tiki Barber, man. I think he took one hit too many.
He's hanging out with my man Jerry Rice, because Jerry Rice is the hype man.
Jerry
already said we're going to win the whole thing. So
yeah,
you gotta love those guys, man.
Yeah, some of these ex-players, man, you got to be careful with these guys, man. They get a little crazy. And the funny thing is, Tiki used to be a hater. Remember, he was hating on Eli Manning. He said he had a lot of bad things to say about Eli.
Really?
That was kind of crazy. Yeah, and people were like, "Yo, what's the problem here? What did Eli do to you?"
Ah, oh, that's
So
hilarious.
now he's going to the other extreme.
Now he's at the other location.
I'm just in my mind, Daniel Jones. I think Dayball sees Daniel Jones as Josh Allen light. You know what I mean? Some of
Hmm.
the same physical talents, except for the strength of his arm. Obviously, Josh Allen's arm strength is elite, and Jones isn't. But he can do some of the same things, other than have the strong arm. And I believe that he's coaching him that way, and I believe he's going to try to use him that way. And we'll see what happens.
Josh
And
Allen.
of course, the worst is Cardinals. Ugh, ugly. They'll be lucky if they win 4 games.
Again, it's just I was just so struck by the amount of accomplishment from high school on through for the quarterback, for the Cardinals quarterback. I was getting ready to call him Kyrie. Well, Kyrie.
Oh Lord.
um, but it is what it is. We have to take a look at the actual results. And maybe now that he's not in the what was the offense that the quarterback brought with him?
Oh jeez.
The
The I don't know, the red attack or something. But
we both actually dissected this offense because it was about the green grass.
right, yeah.
And do you go long? And it had all of this stuff that the quarterback was doing at the line of scrimmage, but I don't know if they ever really ran that.
Air
So
raid.
air raid, yes, the air raid
Yeah.
offense.
I tell you the truth, I don't think he was the best quarterback to put in an air raid offense, to tell you the truth.
But
Air raid
he ran
offense.
it in college.
Yeah.
Maybe like 1 year, I
Yeah.
think, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many, guys was coming out that had that capability or had that experience, let's put it that way. Pat Mahomes, right, was one.
Yeah, he played for him.
Right, he played for him, so, but he was taken, so what you gonna do? All right, Benny, let's take a quick look at our Facebook page.
So
And
you agree with my picks?
yeah, I like your picks.
All right.
I like your picks. Yeah, yeah. All right, going to the Ben and Barry on Facebook page. Let's just go through some quick topics here. Get a chance you can make whatever comments you want to make on this. First off, we'll start with congratulating Alex Magoo. Mr. Magoo gets a contract with the Green Bay Packers. Is that competition for Jordan Love?
Nah.
We know Magoo will give up the body. We know that much for sure. How long he'll last doing it at the NFL level is the question. But after winning the championship in the USFL, you got to give him props for that. Naeem Hines out for the Bills. Remember I said it was something else happening with the Bills, and I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So we
You
know it
saw
won't be Saquon.
wait. If you're still saying that, you obviously didn't read my comment.
I know your comment was no, go ahead. I don't remember the comment. What was it?
Naeem Hines is like the fourth string running back.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that. So you're not going to bring in a starter for him?
No, but I wouldn't say not to try to get one. You're not going to get Saquon. The Dolphins already under the cover of night tried to steal Saquon, and the Giants told them no.
Under the
So
cover of night.
anybody else, yeah, they got found out. Supposedly there's some other teams that called about him, but the Dolphins name got thrown out to the streets. I believe Buffalo was already in the running to try to get Dalvin Cook. But the thing is, they have a second-year player in James Cook and they also have Damian Harris that came over from the Patriots. That's a nice little 1-2 punch there. It's not a great 1-2 punch, but it's a nice 1-2 punch. They both can catch the ball out of the backfield. Damian Harris is probably the better short yardage goal line guy. Cook is the better guy in the passing game. A little faster, a little shiftier. But considering that both of them are better than the starting running back last year, Devin Singletary, I say that's a big plus for their offense.
All righty.
Now,
all righty.
So the Dalvin Cook thing could still be out there. I don't know.
Better watch out. They're going to have Josh Jacobs up in that thing.
If I was them, if I was just about 20 other teams, I'd be hunting Josh Jacobs down.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So, Ben, let's do a quick thought on the series quarterback.
Yes.
I'll let you go first.
Oh, I love it. I think it's a great show. I love sports shows anyway. I watch these kind of things on Netflix and Hulu and stuff all the time. I did the one where they did the high school quarterback QB1. I watched QB1. I watched I forget the name of the other one. It's like Last Chance U.
Oh yeah,
I watch all
Last Chance U. Yeah.
I love those things, man. I love those things. This one's really good. This one's really good because it's about NFL guys. And when I saw who the 3 quarterbacks were that were going to be featured, I tried to figure out exactly what kind of rationale went into the thought process of how they decided who they wanted to try. Because supposedly last season, they had every NFL starter mic'd up for the entire season. So they already kind of were planning for this.
Every NFL starter?
Every NFL quarterback was mic'd up all season.
Okay.
Yeah, quarterbacks. Every game. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is an obvious choice, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL at this moment. Such
Very
great
little
success.
argument.
Very little argument, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I actually tried to argue with a guy, and he almost brought him to tears. He was so adamant about Patrick Mahomes. I finally had to say, you know what, bro, you're right. So, but it's funny. I just had a conversation with somebody over the weekend, and we both agreed. If you look at Patrick Mahomes' stats right now, if he got up tomorrow morning and said he didn't want to play no more, he's Hall of Fame numbers already. That's crazy. It's crazy. He has Hall of Fame numbers already, and he's just getting started. So he was an obvious choice for a show about NFL quarterbacks. The second guy, Kirk Cousins, I was so happy to see. You know I like Kirk Cousins. I respect Kirk Cousins. I always have, for all the good things that he does that far outweigh the bad things. I think he's been a victim of some very glaring errors and missteps that kind of put him out there on Front Street. But usually if he wasn't as good as he was, nobody would care. You know what I mean? He'd be Sam Darnold. Nobody would care. He'd be Baker Mayfield. But he's so much better than that. I think that's why he kind of gets a bad rap. After watching this show, I respect him even more. This dude is a leader. His teammates love him. He's played under duress and injuries and gutted them out. He's been through a lot. All that stuff he went through in Washington, getting franchise tagged twice, trying to get the heck out of there, and never really complaining, just balling. Got a lot of respect for him. The third guy was Marcus Mariota. I wasn't quite sure where that came from, but I think they made the choice before the 2022 season started, because the whole idea was to track them through the 2022 season. And the personal life of each guy was kind of cool too. I don't freak out about stuff like that, but you know, it was kind of nice to see them. They all got kids, they all got nice wives and all that stuff. Get to see their houses. The houses are all nice. Get it. But Marcus Mariota had a really tough 2022, really tough, and it was kind of one of those reality check kind of things to watch a guy like him, a former Heisman winner, who came into the league with a lot of hype. I still, in the back of my mind, keep thinking, if somehow, some way, Chip Kelly could have drafted Marcus Mariota to the Eagles, that might have changed everything for this guy's career. But Atlanta took him first.
Yeah, he'd had a quarterback that could actually run when he decided to run the option.
That could actually run his exact system. So, you know, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
You know, the interesting thing that stood out to me was starting with Marcus was how much he was running, you know, and I'm like, dude, you know, you're not going to last. You keep this up, but you're not going to win. But because it seemed like he was running too fast. He wasn't getting through the reads or whatever, you know, that something's not right when you're running that much, unless you're in design runs. So,
or you're on a crappy team.
Well, that could be it too, you know. But whatever it was, something wasn't right. Kirk Cousins, it was amazing how many highlights they showed of him getting crushed as he's throwing the ball and laying on the ground, go, you know. And you know me, you know, on the money side, Kirk is my hero. You know what I mean? Even when you talk about taking those franchise tags, I mean, he probably did as good a job as any quarterback I've ever seen, and taking the franchise tag, making a ton of money, and then going to get a fully guaranteed contract, the first of its kind in NFL history. You know,
yeah, he really set the meter for this guaranteed stuff.
Huh?
He set the meter for this guaranteed money stuff.
He sure enough did. It's no doubt about it. I mean, you know, and so on that note, now you know, and you said it, you know, if it wasn't for a few, you know, miscues or whatever, you call it that. I call them mind farts. But what I thought was so interesting was it seemed as if he understood that he makes these types of errors. And consequently, he had the whole mental wavelength training thing going on with the thing wrapped around his head and all of that. That was cracking me up. So I'm like, okay, maybe I wasn't too far off. You know, me and Kurt actually kind of understand. And I tell you all the time, I say it because I make those same mistakes when I'm playing Madden, and you do something, you go, damn, what the heck did I do that for? You know what I mean? So that happens. But what really kind of cracked me up about the whole thing, because you know, naturally you and I go back and forth, was the final a part of the Kirk Cousins piece was his game against the Giants. And in the crucial play of the game, he needed 8 yards. And how many yards did he throw the ball for? 3. I'm like, Kurt, you can't do that. And the thing was, I went back, Benny, and I looked at the all 22. And I'll be quite honest, I didn't see a lot of options for him. I don't think they ran the best plays. I mean, if you need 8, you got to have a play to get 8. You know, you can't have a guy drifting toward that 10-yard line, and then he's going to decide whether he's going to, you know.
Sure. So it's either throw the short pass or take the sack.
Or run.
So, or run.
He actually ran they showed one play where he ran the option while he was at DC, when he was in Washington. Now we know
how many years ago was that?
Huh?
Bro, the guy's got a rib bone sticking out of his side. Are you kidding me? He's not gonna run.
Hey, look, Patrick Mahomes was injured when he was playing the Eagles.
Patrick Mahomes is 22 years old.
He took off and made the play.
There's no comparison.
In any event, like I told you, it wasn't a lot of options, but I just thought it was interesting. He needed 8.
Two options.
He threw for 3, and again, he's people are looking at him like, man, Turk, cousin.
That's not him.
Well, maybe not, but he's going to take some blame for it because he is the quarterback. And like I said, he apparently and then let me mention, I did put the episode names down here because I went when I looked at it, I was like, okay, these are the actual episode names, and it kind of gives you an idea about what those episodes are about. So for anybody who wants to go back and watch that series, I think you'll enjoy it. I understand Hertz and Fields turned it down. They were given the option. Yeah, that's what I've read.
I can see Fields turning it down.
I can see Hertz turning it down because I don't think he wants any distractions. He's super focused.
Well, right now he's playing that perfect role. I'm perfect. I say everything right. I do everything right. I'm not a showboat. I don't talk trash. Everybody loves me. It's good. It's cool. I'm cool with it.
It's funny you say that because in the piece with Patrick Mahomes was like, I try to make friends with these guys so that if they have a thought and an option to either crush me or maybe give me a little bit of a break, maybe they'll give me a little bit of a break.
And that's a smart approach. That's a very smart approach.
So, I mean,
some guys did let up on him. Of course, it helps that you can't really clobber quarterback anymore. So they already got that. They already got that in the back of their minds.
That's true. So that was a pretty good series. I might go back and watch it again just for some laughs. The Pro Bowl, Benny, is going to Orlando in 2024. We don't really get into the Pro Bowl. By that time, they'll probably be playing ping pong competitively or something of that nature.
It's flagged now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, it's flagged. That's a part of it. But I think they still do a lot of the skill drills or the gaming type things. Can you hit the...
I'd rather watch that part.
The skill stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I think they still have that as a part of it.
Yeah, they do. The quarterbacks got to hit the targets and all that crap.
Yeah, all that.
And they got the tug of war and the dodgeball. That's fun. I like watching that stuff. That's
fun. Okay. Well, enjoy. I won't be watching that stuff. Anyway, Saquon signed. Now, I had to go back and look because the way they announced it in the reports, I wasn't sure if he signed the franchise tag or not, or if he just signed for that. But that was my question was, then what happens second year? Would he, if they try to franchise him again, would he get the increased money? So apparently this is a modified franchise tag that he signed that's paying him a little bit more than what he would have got on the franchise
tag. Different newspaper, every different outlet, they're all calling it these little hybrid names. But basically, I guess you could say the contract that he signed kind of nullified this first tag. So in fact, because my first question was, can they now tag him again twice? So this takes away the first tag.
But they could takes away because this was a tag.
This was a tag.
Okay.
But he signed for the tag money plus. So he didn't sign the franchise tag. He signed
He did not sign its franchise tag.
He did not sign the franchise tag, but he signed a contract for the franchise money plus. So now
that's not my understanding, but okay,
Well, they can only tag him again one time.
Well, if he signed a tag, then they would only be able to tag him again one time.
Right.
But if he didn't sign the tag, why couldn't they sign him 2 times?
Because they signed for the franchise tag money plus. It's an enhanced franchise tag, but it is not the franchise tag, because if it was the franchise tag, then it would only be for 10 point whatever it is.
But he was officially tagged, whether it was the or about.
Well, they tagged him, but it's no good if he doesn't sign it.
All right. Well, we'll have to follow up on this. That kind of confuses me as to what happens there. I read a few different things. Those things that didn't mention tag at all. There was a lot of that type of stuff. They just said he signed for this, he got this, he signed for that. And then I did find one
Right.
that said
I know the one statement that a lot of the different things that you'll read is the sentence, he beat the franchise tag. So that tells me he did not sign the franchise tag. He signed for the same amount of money plus another $1 million in incentives and a $2 million signing bonus.
Well, you can see the headline here. It says sign adjusted franchise tag. That's what the headline says.
Okay, well, an adjusted franchise tag is not the franchise tag. It's two different things. That's my point.
Okay. All right. So that's that part. Let's get back to the page here. Will Levis was sort of the quarterback in the draft class that was kind of closest to Anthony Richardson. That's the one I'm thinking about. So Anthony Richardson, it was kind of between Will Levis and Anthony Richardson when they were talking about who would be the next after CJ and Bryce. And Anthony Richardson had such an impressive combine that he wound up going. But
and then Levis fell off a cliff.
He went to the second round, man.
Right.
And Anthony Richardson got 33, almost 34 million. Will Levis, it says it right here, will get 9.54 million over the course of his deal. And he signed, what did he sign? Like a 2-3 year deal or something like that?
4 years.
So, his money is so much less. I was just impressed or amazed by how much of a difference that it made. And I know I said the same thing about Fields when he came out. Trevor Lawrence got picked ahead of him. And I thought they were both around the same relative to capabilities coming out of college. But the amount of money that Trevor Lawrence got compared to the amount that Fields got was substantial. And so that was one of the first places that I kind of picked that up on. Mr. Football History, Johnny Lujack. What do you have to say about Johnny Lujack?
Johnny Lujack, I can't give you a whole lot of specifics about Johnny Lujack because I've been drinking and I got a whole lot of old stuff floating around in my head. But I know that name. It's an impressive football name. I mean, if you said, my name's Johnny Lujack, you probably go, oh, you play football. He's just got that kind of name. Okay. but Johnny Lujack is a legend in the NFL. I'm sure you have all his accolades there listed. So he just passed away?
Yeah, like 96 years old, 98, excuse me, he passed away. Apparently he went to Notre Dame, where he got a scholarship, but he had to leave and go fight in World War II, which he did.
Guy did a lot.
Hunting German submarines in the English Channel. When he came back, they say he was on the cover of the Atlantic, and he led the 1947 Fighting Irish to a 9-0 record. He won the Heisman. I mean, this guy. And it's funny. They say he was paid $17,000 for his 1948 rookie season. And I'm like, okay, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but what my question was how did that relate to the average salary back then? And the average annual salary was in the range of like $3,000.
Right. He was a star.
Yeah. So 17,000 was big money, multiple
big money.
of what the average person So yeah, Johnny Lujack at 98. Go back, take a look at Ben and Barry on football. You can read a little bit more about his history, but he was an amazing guy. So Trayvon Diggs is staying with the Cowboys. He got a 5-year extension, $100 million, about 20 mil a year. And we were talking about some of the guys that, we were talking about the brain trust. And I thought this was interesting, when you're talking about brain trust and you look back and you see the coaches. And we didn't include, when we did the show, we actually talked about who they coached under, et cetera. So we actually kind of did it, but we didn't do like a ancestry family tree or nothing like that.
Right.
This kind of does that. And it's interesting because Andy Reid is known for his creativity at this point, playfulness. And I don't know if I see that in any of these coaches, that are coming out. Everybody's
Doug Peterson.
Person. Doug Peterson probably the closest one with the Philly and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But the rest of these guys, Todd Bowles is defense, right?
Yeah.
Sean McDermott, defense or offense?
Defense.
Defense. Ron Rivera.
Defense.
Defense. John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh is basically just a head coach.
Just a head coach. So
I think most of his stuff is defense, though.
Defense. Yeah, I got that feeling too.
Yeah, so Doug is the one that's going to most remind you of Andy as far as his offensive acumen. And we've seen it not just with Philly, but also I like to remind people, I bring this up all the time to Eagles fans, and they act like they don't know what I'm talking about. Those 2 touchdowns the Kansas City Chiefs scored on them in the Super Bowl, where Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were wide open. Doug Peterson ran that play on them week 4 of the season. The exact same play. The motion and the everything. That's where Bieniemy got it from.
Yeah, we talked about that when we did the Super Bowl show and review on that. So, yeah, I remember they went back and forth. And again, I just watched the replay of that game.
Matter of fact, Andy probably called Doug and said, yo.
You never know. You never know. But I just finished watching the replay of the Eagles Chiefs game. And couple things struck me. Number one, it was a heck of a game. It was a good game. I enjoyed watching that game, even on replay. The other thing that struck me is you talk about the run game versus the pass game. When you think Chiefs, you think about pass, at least I do. But opening up that third quarter, these guys ran the ball down the Eagles' throats. And the misdirection was stunning. It was, you didn't know which way anybody was going until Pacheco hit that line of scrimmage and was giving you hell. He's another person that they talked about is going to have some contract issues because he's not a top round running.
Bro, he's in trouble.
Pacheco.
He's in trouble. Age-wise.
How old is he?
But I think he's already like 23 or 24. So by the time he plays out his rookie contract, and he wasn't a first rounder, so there's no 5th-year option. By the time he plays out his rookie contract, he'll be darn near 29.
Yeah.
Who's going to give him a multi-year contract at 29?
Look, he'll be playing special teams, returning kicks or something if he's not careful.
I mean,
save your money, Pacheco. Save your money.
Yeah, anything can happen, but I'm just saying, if you're coming for your second contract and you're 26, like Barkley and Jacobs, and I think Pollard is about 25 or 26, that's one thing. They're already giving these guys a hard time. So if you're 29 and you're trying to get your second contract, because your second contract is where you make your real money. Your first contract is kind of set already, depending on where you got drafted. Can't be higher than this, can't be lower than this, because you're a rookie. But once you get past that rookie contract, That's where you want to sign for as many years and as much money and as much guaranteed money as you can, because there's no guarantee that once that second contract is over, that your career won't be over. So that's where you want to hit. And they're making it really, really tough for running backs right
now. Well, that's I've heard that said. I know what you think about Trey Lance, and I don't know if you believe him, but Kyle Shanahan said we got 3 guys who can play. So
sure.
I thought that was a simple yet profound statement. He just put
he has to say that.
Yeah.
He has to say that until they find somebody to trade him to.
We shall see. We shall see. And then the other guy that you dislike, I figured, hey, you gotta like the shirt, Benny.
Who's that on that shirt?
AI.
Okay.
He's running around with, he got an Iverson shirt on.
Off the cover of the Slam magazine. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. So you might not like him as a quarterback, but you gotta like the shirt. You gotta like that attitude he's coming with. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I'm looking forward to it. We have another XFL to NFL. Jack Snyder signed a contract with the Vikings, going from the XFL to the NFL. And then lastly, a $75 million guaranteed contract. The Jets agreed to a new 2-year contract with Aaron Rodgers. 2 years, 2 in the 70 is 35, just like about 37 and a half per year. He was at 50 when he left Green Bay. So this is a sort of a downgrade in contract level.
For annual salary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well, I think they wanted to make sure, because there was a lot of talk about whether or not he would stay with the Jets after the 1 year was up. So I think they wanted to be sure that if they improve but don't necessarily get to the Super Bowl this first year, that he'll stick around and take another shot at it.
Yeah, well, you can't assume he's going to win it in the first year,
There's people that really believe. There's people that really believe that the Jets are going. I'm not one of them, but there's people out there. You know what? They got blinders on, first of all. I kind of understand it. The Jets won a lot of games last year. I forget what their record was, with really, really bad quarterback play. That's almost insane. Like, that never happens. You have really bad quarterback play and still win games. So they see that. They see all the success that the defense had. They see that they signed Quentin Williams, probably their best defensive lineman. Sauce is going into a new year. They got another guy on the other corner. The defense looks solid. Garrett Wilson, not Garrett Wilson. What's his first name? Yeah, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Williams. I'm sorry.
I believe it's Wilson.
Receiver. Yeah. Rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. I mean, why wouldn't they win the Super Bowl?
Well, because everybody else has talent too. And that's why any team doesn't win the Super Bowl. But, I can understand them having hope now. And it makes sense, because everything you said makes absolute sense. They have the talent, receivers, they have the running back, they got
However,
defense.
That same thought process is the same thought process that Eagles fans have. Why won't we go back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Right?
The Eagles, their brain trust didn't make it into the top.
Not mine. Not mine.
They got rookies.
First-time
rookies coordinating.
That's right.
So we shall see how that works out.
And a head coach who already proved that he's not good at calling plays, so he can't take over.
He gave up.
He has to depend on them.
Yeah,
he could.
Duty, right?
He's done it before, so he could try to do it, but he gave it up.
We absolutely gave it up. All right, Benny. Well, that's all I have here. Do you have anything more?
Another USFL guy made it. His first name is Jamar. I forget his last name. He was the backup to Magoo. Somebody picked him up today.
Quarterback? Back up to Magoo?
Yeah, I should have wrote it down. Wait,
Wow.
I might have it. Let me see real quick if I can find it.
I'm surprised because, I mean, Magoo had all of the, well, you know something? Now that I think about it, I believe he did trade time with another quarterback.
Left tackle Andrew Thomas of the Giants just went from making $8 million a year to making 18 million a year or something. He signed a nice contract.
The conversation on the morning sports shows about that were that it was a kind of ugly timing that they gave him such a nice contract after nickel and diming Saquon Barkley.
Well,
they were just talking about optics, though. They were just talking.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh,
23 mil he's going to make. 23 mil a year for 5 years. Here's the thing. You can't tell me that this isn't collusion. You cannot tell me that these owners haven't got on the phone with each other and talked about how they can all save a little bit of money by devaluing the running back position. I'm sorry. That's something they've all decided to do. Nobody is going to pay big money and a bunch of years to a running back probably anymore. However, when you talk about what's the most important positions on the football field, they talk about quarterback, they talk about cornerback, they talk about pass rusher, and they talk about left tackle. Oh, and quarterback, of course.
Yeah.
They're the 5.
You said quarterback.
I did. Yeah. Those are the 5 top positions. So they feel justified in paying their left tackle, especially the Giants, who haven't had a quality left tackle in years. Now they have one, and they locked him up for 5 years.
All right. Well, that's it for me, Benny. As it says here, thanks for following. Please leave comments and suggestions. Our motto is football is life, and you can find us at www.benandbarry on football, as well as most social media. I haven't put us up on Threads yet, Benny. I'm still taking a look at Threads. Threads is the new Twitter copy that Instagram and Facebook are sponsoring. So, and then Twitter is no longer going to be called Twitter. Now they're going to be called X. He got some other ideas, so I'm going to leave that alone for right now. But I am looking at Threads at this particular point. All right. That's it for me.
That's it for me.
Peace.
Training camp, baby.